Tennessee, according to Heather Dinich, is among 3 teams that could make the playoff for the first time per ESPN. The other 2 that she pointed out, Southern California and Penn State. So I want to break this down and ask you, if you had to pick Tennessee or Southern Cal making the playoffs this year, which would it be? If you had to pick between the 2, they make the playoffs. Southern Cal was knocking at the door, so was Tennessee. Who would you take?
I'd take USC. I'm sorry, but they're playing in the Pac-12 and they got Caleb Williams back. How can you not take them over Tennessee?
I would definitely have to take USC as well. And you do have the returning Heisman winner coming back, and he should be a year better. So not to rain on anybody's parade, but I would take Tennessee. Now, the other program that was mentioned is a little bit more interesting and a bit surprising. So who was the other team that was mentioned, Caleb?
The other team was Penn State, and there's getting to be this disturbing love for Penn State.
So stupid.
Solely based on their Rose Bowl win. Dave, how many times have we seen teams be overvalued because they looked good in a bowl game going into the next year?
A lot. And Tennessee might be one of those teams, but it appears not because they lost Hendon Hooker. I don't think they're going to go into the season as the type of pick that fans want to make and be ahead of the curve. I think as a matter of fact, if you're jumping on Tennessee's bandwagon, you're behind the curve at this point. So Penn State, she mentions, Heather Dinich does, as a strong candidate to become first-time playoff participants. No.
They're not on. Does anybody think they're on Ohio State or Michigan's level yet?
No. And they never will be with James Franklin. Even if they get to the point where they have that type of talent, Caleb, they are not going to win the coaching battle. At the end of the day, James Franklin did a great job at Vanderbilt for what Vanderbilt is, but they played practically nobody. I think at one point they played Grace Christian out of.
That was when the SEC East was at its absolute worst, too.
That too. So you had to pull off a couple of upsets against a down division, and you had to win your non-conference games, and you're good. But no, absolutely not. Penn State is not going to make the college football playoff. They are not going to be one of the top 4 teams when they go to the 12-team playoff. They're not going to get the bye. They're not going to do any of that. They play at Ohio State this year. They host Michigan. If Jim Harbaugh had gone, maybe we could make that argument. But I'll give you Southern Cal because they've got an easier schedule. Although Tennessee's is pretty easy, but they have a settled quarterback position. I'll give you that one. But to take Penn State over Tennessee makes absolutely no sense to me.
Not to mention, look, I think Michigan State could be better this year than they were last year, and they have to play at Michigan State this year. And that's a little bit scary for them, I think. Don't sleep on their opener against West Virginia with Neil Brown there. I mean, I'm with you. I don't see look, Penn State's very capable of losing either one of those games, quite honestly. And this has been a pet peeve of mine for a quarter century, for 25 years. I think teams get so overvalued by what they do in a bowl game. And I think you should, when you're projecting a team the next year, you should care about their bowl game way less than you should care about what they did in November the year before. Because bowl games are you got a month off. It's just so, some players opting out, whatever. Jamarcus Russell became a number 1 draft pick because he blew out Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. And that was ridiculous that he became that. Tennessee was number 3 heading into 2005. Why? Because of that Texas A&M game in the Cotton Bowl where Rick Clawson was Cotton Bowl MVP. That completely overvalued Tennessee heading into the 2005 season, that one game.
I'm with you. I don't understand the Penn State argument. I never will. To me, that is like one of those relationships where both sides kind of like each other, but they don't love each other. I don't feel like Penn State loves James Franklin. I think James Franklin, if he could become the head coach of the New York Jets, or he could get a bigger college coaching job, there's not a lot that he would do that. James Franklin is going to have a long, frustrating career like so many coaches in the Big Ten have had. And you can go Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. You could go a number of different coaches, and the fan bases, or at least the administrations, are okay with just winning 8 or 9 games.
Because
That's
the
not
minute you want to
okay.
fire them, they sneak in an 11-win season.
Right, exactly. Right when you're about to fire them, they're okay with the Butch Joneses of the world.
Yeah. Well, I think I remember covering Tennessee in 2017. And after that loss to Florida, remember that was the worst coach game ever, where Butch Jones threw it 3 times on the 1-yard line and Florida went up the Hail Mary and Butch Jones was like, "We don't have a dime package." Remember that?
Yes. No.
And I remember that the next day, the Tennessee message boards, everybody was like, "I want Tennessee to lose out. I want there to be no excuse to keep Butch Jones at this point." Vol fans were ready for a 3-9 or 4-8 season or whatever happened because they wanted no excuse for Butch Jones to hang around after that year. They were so angry at Butch Jones. And quite honestly, I think they were lucky. I think the worst thing that can happen to a program is when a bad coach sneaks in a 10-win season.
I agree. Post from the message board from Hoghead. I drove back from the 2002 Citrus Bowl and the 2016 Outback Bowl thinking we were going to be great the next year, and we were really bad both seasons. Any concern that could happen with Tennessee this upcoming year after a great showing in the Orange Bowl?
I think Tennessee is. I think there is some overvaluing of Tennessee based on the Orange Bowl. I also think there's some overvaluing of Tennessee that we're doing, but that's based on default because we're looking at other programs in the SEC and thinking, I mean, it's not based on the Orange Bowl performance. It's based on, even if Joe Milton is still like the erratic Joe Milton we saw before, you trust him to get through this schedule. I mean, it's just not that hard of a schedule. I don't think I don't think Tennessee gets to the playoff, but I think the schedule has them in competition for it.